All right, another awesome Sunday night football game that brings us to the opening line report here on OddsTrader. We take the first look at the Week 14 betting slate of the NFL, and I'm going to bring in my guys Stu and Albert, Analytics Capper, Monotone Football, both here to talk about next week's betting slate. But before we get into that, let's just react quickly to what we saw at Lambeau Field, because it's going to really have a huge impact on the first game that we're going to talk about here. AC, what did you see here at Lambeau Field for the Chiefs?
Man, it was a great ending to an awesome NFL week for me. So I was on the Packers and the over, so both hit. Thankfully, that was a crazy last drive there with a lot of penalties, a lot of missed calls. But I think the Chiefs were in a really tough spot against a Green Bay Packers team that was playing a little better. Jordan Love is getting a lot more comfortable with that offense. But looking into next week, I think it's going to be a great game against the Bills. It's always great theater between Mahomes and Josh Allen. But I think Mahomes is really going to make a statement next week, in my opinion.
Oh, that was a good one. AC covered it, obviously. I mean, Jordan Love, for the first half of the season, could only get it going in the second half of ball games, right? They were the worst first quarter scoring team in football outside of, obviously, the New York Giants, which I'm sure you guys are all familiar with what's going on over there. You don't want to be in that conversation normally. So obviously, to see what they've done now in the first half of these last two games, immediately get out against the Lions, immediately get out against the Chiefs, that's not something easy to do. We definitely have to start respecting it. We have to start respecting the kind of quarterback Jordan Love is turning into. And I mean, we already talked about it a little bit last week, but man, stacking these impressive performances against good teams is legit and something we should definitely be talking about.
So AC gave us his quick little, lean here for the Bills at Chiefs next week. You have the Bills at +3, Kansas City on the money line at -155. Bills at +130, and a total of 48. Now, things could shift here because the Chiefs game just ended, so we could see those odds reposted here by DraftKings shortly and see how things adjust, but I don't see it changing by much here. Bills coming off of a bye, Chiefs now having to come off of a tough loss here at Lambeau, so you have to imagine they're going to be wanting to make a statement. Probably the game of the day, although there are a few other really, really good games in this slate. Stu, let's start with you here. What's your initial lean seeing this line as Bills +3? And do you expect this line to change throughout the week?
Yeah, that's the first thing you always want to think of as a bettor is where's the line going to move, right? Because if we think it's going to move with us or against us, we want to make our bet at that time accordingly. And for me, I think this is one of the tougher games, honestly. In my opinion, I think it sticks around 3. I think this is the correct number. And I think it probably, since it's such a key number in the NFL, obviously that field goal is so important. I think it actually does stick around here. I mean, if you're on either side of this, it's probably going to hit 2.5. It's probably going to get 3.5. That's how these major games work. I'm sure you observed this last week with the 49ers and the Eagles, obviously. You could really get either side of that depending on when you bet in the week. I think it'll go back and forth, but I think 3 is the main number it stays at. And for me, I like the Bills in this game. I do. I know AC just obviously said the Mahomes, revenge game, showed the world that these last couple weeks maybe aren't representative of the Chiefs. For me, I mean, the big problem is the Chiefs defense has been pretty good this year. It's now the offense that is kind of, almost a little bit underwhelming, which is kind of insane to say with Patrick Mahomes. I'm kind of wondering if this is maybe his worst season as a quarterback so far in the NFL, even counting obviously his first full season, not the rookie year where he sat behind Alex Smith and played that last game, obviously. But I don't know. A lot of people are going to point to the wide receivers, but you got to remember what that wide receiver room looked like when they won the Super Bowl as well, right? It's not a drastic difference. So for me, you mentioned it, the Bills off the bye week is a big deal. New offensive coordinator. Hopefully we'll be a little bit more comfortable with our new schemes. Maybe the running game will finally look somewhat competent. I don't know if it's time to call up playoff Lenny. Finally, my best ball teams hope it is, but we'll see what happens. I think the Bills are very live in this one. I'm super excited for this game.
Yeah, I would say the Buffalo Bills, according to Stu, is the right play. there's going to be moments throughout the year where, depending, people talk about pros versus Joes, people talk about sharp money. The Bills 100% is going to get the sharp money in this game. They're coming off a bye. They're coming off a really tough loss against Philadelphia, which they had that game won, lost in overtime. Jalen Hurts, scrambled for a touchdown there. So everything is pointing to a Buffalo, statement type game. But man, Mahomes and Andy Reid off a loss is really, really hard to bet against. So that's why I'm going to lean, in my opinion, it's going to be the public side. It's going to be the expected bounce back for Mahomes. But I agree with Stu. I think the issue here is offense. And I know there's a lot of, I don't know, we took 10 minutes before we get into it, but Travis Kelce has not been the same since who has entered the fray. And I'm not even going to say her name, but he's still a good player, obviously, but he hasn't been that transcendent, game-changing, game-breaking tight end that we've seen the last couple seasons. He had a really bad offensive pass interference early in the first half tonight. I look for him to really have a big game. That, to me, is the engine of the offense. Pacheco's great. Their wide receivers have always been second tier outside of Tyreek Hill's year. So it's not really them. To me, it's Travis Kelce. It's up to him to be special. And he hasn't been special in the last few weeks.
Wow. I don't know that I have seen the Taylor Swift is ruining Travis Kelce's career criticism yet. Are we breaking take news here? Is this our first am I missing this on the interwebs right now?
No, I mean,
this is out there.
It's a coincidence. It's a coincidence that she's part of, the picture now. He just hasn't. It's not like he's played poorly. I mean, Stu, you could vouch for me for that. He's still getting his numbers, but the scramble drill that makes him so special, getting open and sitting in the zone that makes him so special. The yards after the catch that makes him so special. Like none of that is happening anymore. And so maybe it's, a combination of everything off the field that's going on.
And age is always a big deal too. I mean, if you're a fantasy player, we've been thinking about this for years. It's always like are we going to draft Kelce once again in the first round? Is he still going to have that extra step to him? I mean, it's hard to say. Like you said, the biggest thing, the yards after catch has been huge. I mean, it's not the same, right? Kelce was a guy that you could depend on to get that 7-yard screen pass and turn it into a 33-yard completion. And like AC said, their offense relied a lot on that in the past. So I do think Kelce's still got obviously a lot in the tank. I'm hoping this is one of those situations where he comes out full steam, suddenly week 15, week 16, maybe even playoff season. And then that's the Kelce we all remembered.
Yeah, and look, he was drafted the same year as Gronk. They're the same age. So Gronk's been out of the game now, 2 seasons, and Kelce's still out here grinding. Obviously a much different type of player, but it's good context to remember that Kelce has significant years over Mahomes. He had all of those Alex Smith years where the Chiefs had that crazy streak of games where receivers weren't scoring touchdowns, right? If you guys remember that, it was like, and it was almost double digits where a wide receiver hadn't caught a touchdown because Travis Kelce was their whole offense. So there's a lot of tread on those tires. So I think it's a really interesting thing to monitor here. And look, coming into this game next week, the AFC playoff picture is really rounding into form. It's almost a must win for both Buffalo and Kansas City. Buffalo's sitting at 6-6. They really need to win the rest of the way here to guarantee a spot as one of those wild card teams. And Kansas City wants that number 1 seed. It's really hard to play at Arrowhead. And Miami looks awesome. There's other teams in the mix here in the AFC that are going to be in a better position than the Chiefs if they falter here to the Bills. So I'm really excited for this one. I think both these teams come out balls to the wall. Another team that was balls to the wall today, the 49ers absolutely spanked the Philadelphia Eagles. Oh my God. The brotherly spank in Philly. The Niners got the job done today. They are 11.5-point favorites over their division rival, the Seattle Seahawks, at home next week. You can get the Niners on the money line at -575. I don't know why anyone would do that unless they're betting like $4 million on the game. You're getting the Seahawks at +425 and a total of 46. I think this is a little disrespectful to the Seahawks. I think that they've shown some grit this season. They always play San Francisco and their other divisional opponents tough, whether the score represents that or not every time. If you actually watch the games, you see Seattle matches up well with the teams in their division year after year. So 11.5 feels high, but I get it considering what we saw today and what we've seen with San Francisco healthy. They seem unstoppable. So, Stu, why don't you start us off here? What are we looking at heading into this NFC West battle next week?
Yeah, that's AC up there. There we go. I hate to be a little bit of a bummer to start. This has been the one I've been dreading like all day to talk about. This is the one I feel like there's no way I'm gonna find a bet here. I mean, it's. I want to say with the number alone, it's Seattle or bust, but I know I'm not betting Seattle, so I obviously can't come on here and say that. I believe in San Francisco. I think they're a phenomenal team. They've proven they're probably the best team in football. That doesn't mean I want to lay them, obviously, with the whole world just seeing how impressive they are. That's the absolute worst time to bet a team, is when the whole world just got to appreciate how good they are in prime time, because that's going to be the first thing in the top of their head when they go to make the bets for this week. But on the other side, Seattle's just got too many problems. For me, it's really, if I can guarantee that everything's healthy and we're back to normal, then I think Seattle can fight. But Geno got banged up a couple weeks ago, and man, he has not looked like the same quarterback. It's almost getting to the point where I'd rather just throw in, Drew Lock and hope something better happens. Kenneth Walker is injured, a guy that maybe a lot of people don't appreciate in the mainstream, but this is a legitimately really good running back that they're missing right now. So for me, there's just no way I can get to Seattle here. I think San Francisco wins, but the number is a little steep. It probably should be at 10. That puts the technical value on Seattle. I'm just not getting there.
Yeah, this is another game we're going to slightly disagree on. I think the value here is on Seattle. I'm not going to bet it personally. I mean, if the Niners wanted to blow teams out, they could just blow them out. They're that good. But there's no way, in my opinion, there's value on the Niners, who just, demolished the Eagles. This is the second game of a, season rematch here. They've already beaten the Seattle Seahawks by 18. Now the line's only, 12 and a half. So it's a little weird, and it's at home in San Francisco. So to me, the line reads Seattle, but Geno Smith did play really well against Dallas on Thursday. Not good enough to win the game, especially late in the fourth quarter. Dallas's defense stepped up, but majority of the game, Geno Smith was dealing. It's really, really tough. It's really gonna be tough for Geno to deal like that on back-to-back weeks against a superior defense and defensive line in the Niners. So, if anything, I would go Seattle. But my favorite play, I don't know if I'm going to bet it yet, but I'm going to like the under in this game most likely.
All right. Why the under?
I don't think Seattle is going to be able to move the ball. So I think San Francisco understands that they don't need to blow out teams at this point, right? They just need to get the win. And I think once they get up 14 or 17 points, I think they're just going to sit on the ball and run Elijah Mitchell and Christian McCaffrey.
Okay, so we're not getting an exciting one out in the NFC West next weekend, according to our experts here. But I do think we are going to get an exciting one here in Dallas. These teams love playing each other. These fan bases hate each other. It's the Eagles, 3-point dogs heading into Dallas, a stadium where the Cowboys actually have played really well in recent years. That was always a big thing. Oh, they're not that good at Jerry World. It's their home stadium. They've done what they needed to do at home recently here, and the Cowboys are having a great season. This has serious playoff implications. This has serious division implications. I'm fired up for this one. You can get the Cowboys on the money line at -162, the Eagles at +136, and a total of 51.5. And I know last week I was screaming from the rooftops, if you can get the Eagles as a dog, go do it. I don't feel the same way after watching them get absolutely pantsed on their home field against the Niners. I know the Niners are beasts, but I'm feeling a little bit less bullish on the Eagles here as we continue to move along the season. I think I was just buying into the hype of the W's, and I wasn't really paying attention to the regression that we've seen with the Eagles this season. I was choosing to ignore it. I knew it was happening, but I just wanted to keep having fun. But I don't know. What do I do here, AC? Your boys, the Cowboys, have looked awesome. So Are they going to manhandle the Eagles here in Dallas?
No, there's no way Dallas is going to manhandle Philadelphia. They're the more physical team. I still think Philadelphia's offensive line is the best unit in football, even better than 49ers. So I think they're going to be able to lean on Dallas. The issue with the Eagles is if they get down early like we saw today, their offense is not really built. Jalen Hurts is not built to come back from 2, 3, 4 scores back. Not many quarterbacks are, right? But especially this team. So if they can get up early, I think they're going to be able to front run and beat Dallas. So I think that the play here is going to be the over, because I think Dallas's defense is a little overrated, to be honest. It's been the numbers have been a little, I guess, how do you like added to the numbers, blown up because of just like pick sixes, fumbles, just random, ball luck that has been great for Dallas. I can't expect that to continue. So I like the over here. And if Philadelphia is up at halftime, I would probably press Philadelphia or bet Philadelphia second half. As far as pre-game or pre-flop read, I'm going to stay away. This is a much more important game for Dallas. So maybe this is a kitchen sink game for them. Maybe they win by a field goal at the end, something like that. But I'm going to stay away from the side. I like the over here. And again, if Philly is down, bet Dallas to continue pouring it on. If Philly is up, then they should be able to lean on their running game.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is a tough one. Well, I'll say right now, a quick look at the market. You're seeing multiple 102s available thanks to the OddsTrader app. You're seeing multiple 102s on the 3, which means that number is going to move very quickly on some of these books, likely 2.5 by even tomorrow morning. That doesn't mean it's never going to move back. I think 3 is a fairly even number for this game, but I'm saying if you like Philly as a 3-point dog, that's going to be something you want to jump on, pretty soon right here. But going into this game, going to the handicap, unfortunately, I'm looking for some common ground here, but I like the under in this one. I've talked about it a lot with the Eagles so far this year. It was kind of my grand revelation a couple weeks ago, is that I'm just not interested in betting overs with the Eagles. You are right. In situations where they come from behind, it gets a little bit trickier. When you look at what the Eagles want to do, when you look at what their game plan is, it's always these 13, 14 play, slow 9-10 minute drives. Tush push here, tush push there. We're working with 4 downs here. Why do we need to be in a rush, right? We can run the ball a little bit at our own pace right here. We can control the clock, and you play a little bit of offense by defense, right? Keep the opposing quarterback off the field. Keep CeeDee Lamb, Tony Pollard, Dak Prescott, all those guys off the field. So for me, seeing 51.5 though is suspicious, because I would not expect a number this high. If you asked me to open it, I would have gave you 49 probably, with the intention that it might hit 48.5, 48 at some point. So for me, seeing the 51 off the bat is a little bit scary as someone that would make my number a couple points lower. But I like the under here. I think Philly will try to control clock. As for the game, it's a real tough one. I would pick Dallas, but seeing them as -160 favorites is kind of crazy here. I'm not sure if the home field advantage is really warranting all that personally.
No, I like your thought on the under here, because we saw it with the Eagles today, right? They're tush pushing it from the 2 at this point. Like, they're just all in on this tush push. And they had a few drives early in the game where they brought it down and they had to settle for 3. So I kind of like where you're going here with the under. I think I'm going to tail you on that front. Although we don't root for unders here on the show. Although we root for winning bets, but come on, we want action here. All right, let's talk about an interesting one, a team that plays tomorrow night, the Jaguars, 3-point favorites heading to Cleveland to take on Joe Flacco and the Browns. You can get the Jaguars at -155 on the money line and Cleveland at +130, and a low total at 38 here. Joe Flacco still has a cannon. I was really impressed watching him get off the couch and do his thing in LA. Obviously, they didn't get the dub, but the guy can still sling it. It made me think for a second, why can't Tom Brady just get off the couch and do this for the Bengals, right? If Joe Flacco can do this for the Browns, you think Brady's got a little bit of an itch to go do that in Ohio as well? But let's talk about this game. Let's talk about the Jags, who play tomorrow night. Maybe this line changes based on what we see on Monday Night Football here. But AC, why don't you give us your early lean here as the Jags square off with the Browns next week?
Yeah, this game is a little weird for me. The line to me reads Cleveland, 3-point dogs at home without a true offense. They scored 19 today against the Rams, but it wasn't really a true 19. Week before, only 12 against Denver. Their offense is struggling. They've lost the last 2 games, and now they're playing a red hot Jacksonville team who's, let me see, they've won 2, 4, 6, 7 out of the last 8 games heading into tomorrow night, and I expect them to win tomorrow as well. So they might be facing the hottest team in the NFL and the first place team in the AFC, right? And they're only favored by 3 points against the Browns. So it's a little suspicious to me. It reads Cleveland, but I'm gonna definitely monitor this throughout the week.
I think that's really good analysis right there. I agree. This line is definitely shading you to bet Jacksonville. That being said, if it's a trap, then I'm going to have to jump right in it, because most of my handicap on this is that this line, I think, will be 4, probably 4.5 after what Jacksonville does to Cincinnati tomorrow. And I'm not even saying that's earned. I don't even think you deserve that. But I think right now the market is still pricing Cincinnati like they're slight downgrade. You lose Joe Burrow, it's okay. It's still a good team. Like, no, that's the engine of their team. When you take out Joe Burrow, you put in Jake Browning, really, really bad things are going to happen. And I don't think the market is taking that into account right now. I got a little bit of their under 7.5 total season wins a little bit earlier this week for that exact reason. So I mean, when it comes to this game, I think I'm already going to be getting a little bit of value on the line. And then just like AC said, I mean, what is this Browns offense really going to do? If Jacksonville can score 20 points, just 20 points, I'm sure they've done that in every game this year, or at least very close to it. I'm not sure how the Browns cover this game. I mean, I did lose a bet on Joe Flacco today. Every time there's a backup quarterback, I bet a market called longest completion under, where I just play them to have shorter than a 35, 34, whatever yard pass. It works very, very well, because normally backup quarterbacks do not come in running and gunning. And guess what? Joe Flacco, who we saw with the Jets a year ago, not complete a pass more than 10 yards. He had 40 checkdowns to Michael Carter and Breece Hall. Come in for the Browns and just start slinging the ball. So that was probably my funniest loss of the season on Joe Flacco. I'm hoping next week isn't as fun. He goes back to regular Joe Flacco. But wow, yeah, you mentioned in the preamble right there, but I have no clue what that was. He was slinging it today, baby.
Yeah, he has a cannon, dude. Like, just out of nowhere. I'm like, wow, all right, Joe Flacco. Maybe he went to Germany and got some sort of blood surgery, or just taken some PEDs and hasn't been tested yet. Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. I was like, wow, all right, Joe Flacco of the Ravens is back. Speaking of the Ravens, we have the Ravens taking on the Rams, the team that Joe Flacco slung it against this week. The Rams, 7.5-point dogs heading to Baltimore. You can get the Ravens at minus 310 on the money line, Rams at plus 250, and a total of 44.5. Ravens coming off of a bye, Rams coming off that nice win against Cleveland. 7.5 feels right to me, but I'm curious what you guys think. AC, where are you sitting on this one with the Ravens coming off of a bye and the Rams coming off of a win?
Yeah, this is a completely new Lamar Jackson. In previous years, when he's a big favorite at home, they win but don't cover. Now this year, they're starting to cover. So this is a really tough, in my opinion, read. They are coming off a bye. They should be a lot healthier. The Rams have to travel east, right? West Coast team traveling east. I know that's not really an impact on the line or the game, but I think it's still worth mentioning, especially an older team like the Rams. But both teams are playing really well. The Ravens have won 6 out of the last 7. I think the Rams are on a 3-game winning streak now. So, but they play really light competition. Cleveland, Arizona, and Seattle. Now they're stepping up in weight class. The Ravens are one of the best teams in the AFC. I think the Ravens are going to win. I don't know if they're going to cover. In my opinion, I think this is a Rams play. Unless this goes up to 8.5, then I think it would be a Ravens play.
Yeah, this is an interesting one here. I mean, I was on the Browns this week, which it felt like it was very live to cover until the very last second. I mean, when you look at Matthew Stafford this season and you look at his game logs, it doesn't take an expert to see this. Any team with a good pass rush destroyed them, and a team that couldn't rush the passer didn't, right? And this was the first example of them being able to overcome that. But still, Matthew Stafford still 31st in EPA per play against man coverage on the season so far. The Ravens play a lot of man coverage. So I'm a little bit concerned, I guess, on the Rams side of the ball. I have a lot of confidence in Lamar Jackson coming off a bye week. I think that team is going to explode on offense. It's just a question of, can the Rams kind of keep this close enough? I don't think so personally. So for that reason, I'll be taking Baltimore in the first half in
I
this
like
game.
that.
I think they come off, to a little bit of an early start. And then I'll also be taking the over, because 44.5, I mean, that just doesn't seem right to me. 46 minimum would be the line I would have set for this one. We know Matthew Stafford and this team can score. And if we're going to get the game script that the books are telling us, because an 8-point underdog is telling us that they're going to be consistently trailing, which means that I won't necessarily have to worry about 4 quarters of Matthew Stafford versus man defense. I'll have to worry about some more prevent defense. Let's stop the big play and let's let them eat underneath. And that's really when you can kind of rack up that yardage, and that's when you can, set yourself up for an over. So for me, I like Baltimore in the first half and the over in this one.
Yeah, I'm really, really interested to see if Baltimore can keep it rolling here. I mean, they've looked fantastic with the new OC. They really, really have put it together here. I really like what I've seen from Zay Flowers as well. They figured out how to utilize him in a way that I think he could be a special dude here down the stretch in the postseason, a weapon that Lamar has not had in the postseason yet. So keep an eye on Zay Flowers as we move forward here. I'm not breaking any news here. Everyone has already talked about how good Zay Flowers is. Another really fast guy that's really good, who might win MVP, the Dolphins, hosting Tennessee. 13-point dogs heading to Miami. You can get the Dolphins on the money line at -750, Tennessee at +525, and a total of 47. This line was at 12 earlier today, and it is now up to 13. And who knows? It might keep climbing because Miami looked awesome today. But we kind of expected that with Washington's secondary being as bad as it is. So why don't you start us off here, Stu? Give us like 30 seconds on how bad Washington is, and then you can tell us what you think about this Tennessee game. If you need more than 30, take it. But I don't think you want to go more than 30.
Yeah, it's brutal. I saw a lot of sharps on Washington as well, which makes it worse because I know why they were. You see that 9.5 and you go, that should be 14. That should be 16, right? That should be 18. And I feel the same way about this line, by the way. But I know why the sharps came in on the Washington side. The only bad part is you see these respected smart bettors and you go, does Washington have a chance? Maybe. No, we didn't have a chance. It was very clear from the first second of that game, we did not have a chance. And I don't think Tennessee has much of a chance. It's for the same exact reason. Washington cannot keep Sam Howell upright. I didn't chart the game anymore after this. He was pressured on his first 9 consecutive dropbacks. That's just not fair to a quarterback, right? You can't complete an offense if your quarterback is pressured on every single drop back to start the game. And that's nothing new. That's what it's been like all year. Someone in my Discord sent me a notification a week and a half ago. Will Levis was 6th in quarterback hits taken in the whole NFL after starting for like 3 weeks. By far the most under pressure quarterback out of anyone in the league. So for the same exact reason why Washington could not get anything going this week, I don't think Tennessee is going to be able to keep their quarterback upright for more than 5 seconds to score the ball. And same problem. These two teams, secondary isn't great. The defensive line is very good for the Titans, but it's not going to matter. Tua has the lowest time to get the ball out of any quarterback in the league. So you get pressure on him, he's just going to dump it down to Tyreek Hill, just like we saw this week. So I like Miami at the 13. I'm not sure what the first quarter line is, but Miami is the best first quarter scoring team in football as well. So I'd be looking there also.
I think I figured out Miami, guys. So they're 7-3. Their 3 losses have come on the road against respectable teams. They lost to the Chiefs, they lost to the Eagles, they lost to the Bills. Every other game has been cake. They've been putting 30, 40, 70 points on the Broncos that one week. So this is another bad team with the Titans. They're basically the new Dallas Cowboys. They beat up on bad teams, and then once they get someone that's really good, especially away from Miami, away from South Beach, some weather, impacting the game, that's when they start struggling. So I expect Miami to continue to roll against bad teams. But that's the thing with NFL betting, right? Once you think you have a team figured out, then something weird happens. So I think the safer play is not going to be Miami minus 13 or even the over, but the team total over, because I think they're going to be able to put 30 on Tennessee super, super easy. So whatever that number is, 30, 33 and a half, 34 and a half is my expectation there. I think they're going to hit that, with flying colors. So I like Miami team total over. I'm not even going to touch the side or the full game over.
AC, why should Tyreek Hill not be the MVP of the
Man,
NFL?
the way that he's impacting the game, it's almost like it's almost
It's
as good as
crazy,
a
man.
quarterback. You know what I mean? But I think the reason why he is such a bull play right now when it comes to MVP is because we don't have a runaway quarterback at MVP. In previous years, Aaron Rodgers would go 15-1. It was obvious it was his year. Mahomes would go, 15-2 is obvious it's his year. All the top quarterbacks this year are struggling. They're throwing a lot of interceptions, even though they're winning. Hurts is even fumbling a lot. So I think the quarterback MVPs are getting muddied down, if you will. And so the best next best player right now has been Tyreek Hill.
And Stu, you can get Tyreek Hill right now at plus 2,000 to win MVP. That's really good odds for every reason AC just said. Now, I know Lamar could go on a run after this bye week, right? Like the bye week happens and we kind of just like forget about Lamar. All the conversation online is like Tyreek is the MVP right now, isn't he? You see it a lot on gambling Twitter because people are looking for that value. But we have short-term memory loss as NFL media. But that's what the beauty of the NFL is. You can do that. You can overreact week to week. That's why it's fun. I go on and on about the Lions and then I hate the Lions. We've done that a million times. So Stu, are you going to place a bet on Tyreek Hill to win MVP right now at plus 2,000?
I'm not. The thing is, I'm not a sensationalist guy. I normally believe in the boring consensus that experts believe, and I like arguing with all the sensationalist people on Twitter. If you put me in the room, I would vote for Tyreek Hill to win the MVP this year. Like, no joke. That would be my pick. So for me, when you look at it, all things accounting, I think 20-1 is solid value. Where I would personally be looking and where I think I will be placing my money this week once I do a little bit of line shopping with OddsTrader, obviously, is Dak Prescott. Because for me, what really matters is the market's moving in these big games. So I took Brock Purdy before this week at 13-1 when I saw most of the market around 8-1, 7-1, knowing that if San Francisco wins this game in dominant fashion, obviously helps, then that number is suddenly going to get a lot better, right? Because these markets are reacting so heavily, like with AC said, because we don't know. None of these guys, there's no runaway. There's no Mahomes 80 million yards making everyone else look stupid this year, which is widened everything open. So for me, a guy like Dak Prescott, who's put together an absolute MVP resume since about the halfway mark of the season, ever since they switched up play calling, it's been really, really good for Dak. If he can get this win in national TV looking the way he has looked the same way, I think it's going to have the same effect as that Purdy number where you suddenly have, twice as good of a number as the rest of the market. And that's all I'm looking to beat at the end of the day when how unpredictable it is. You just got to beat the market.
I love it. I think it's a really good call. Dak should 100% be in that conversation. AC, Dak's your boy. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I've been a Dak apologist all year long now. I know he didn't have a great start to the season, but a lot of that was just getting inundated with Mike McCarthy's system. After that bye week, Mike McCarthy made a few changes, minor and major. Also, he started to target our playmakers a lot more. Brandon Cooks, Tony Pollard, and especially CeeDee Lamb. So once you do those, you target your best players, you just naturally become a lot better. And then from the scheme aspect, he is getting the ball out a lot quicker. He's also running and scrambling a lot more. So he's definitely he's definitely improved and gotten more comfortable. I love Stu's angle there because I do expect the Cowboys to come out. And I think if the Cowboys win, obviously it's going to be contingent on Dak Prescott playing well. Right now it's probably 4 to 5 to 1, right? If they were to beat the Eagles, that's probably going to shorten down to 3 to 1. And then Jalen Hurts is going to get a little longer, right? So I think you're definitely going to be able to manipulate the market that way. And man, great call on Brock Purdy, 13-1. Now he's down to like 5-1 on most books. Nice job.
Be really cool if Brock Purdy won MVP as the Mr. Irrelevant. That would just be an awesome story.
He deserves it. He's amazing.
He's been awesome. Yeah. It's been a fun season for the Niners, and they are stacked. So I am excited to watch them the rest of the way. All right, AC, thank you so much. As always, we will talk to you next week. And we have our man Stu's early leans here for next week. So let's go ahead and give the people what they are here for, Monotone Football. The early prop leans, when these are available, go ahead and jump on them. I, for one, was all over the Tyreek prop that you shared on Twitter today. The alt line to go over 150 yards receiving. He did it in the first half on like 4 catches. So kudos to you for pointing that out. And let's give the people some goods for week 14.
Sounds good. Someone I want to go right back to off the bat, David Montgomery going against his former team in the Bears. I mean, what have we seen? Jahmyr Gibbs is obviously very involved. That's a guy that's not going away. The good news is the market is very aware of that. And when you look at how they were priced this week, we had David Montgomery at like 62 rushing yards. We had Gibbs right under him right there at 55, 50, which I'll take that value. And one of those guys is going to get 15 carries and one of them is going to get 9 or 10. And Jahmyr Gibbs might do more with those 9 or 10 carries. But for me, what I'm looking for is volume. Right? I want the guy that's getting the touches. And now we look at a team like the Bears, right, who they're going to be leading likely most of the game. I would have to imagine the Lions got to get back on track. It's been a rough couple weeks for him here, a little bit embarrassing, to be completely honest. I think this is going to be huge. Dan Campbell has his boys ready to go. And who better to fire up than the guy that's going to want to go out there and exact revenge on his former team for not picking up that contract. So David Montgomery, not just the rushing yards, he's a touchdown monster. 2 touchdowns is something I've had a lot of success with. Back-to-back wins on Derrick Henry. I think a guy like David Montgomery is a very, very good target for 2 touchdowns in this one, considering his red zone presence. Next up, Bijan Robinson, baby. I mean, this guy, maybe not the absolute star fantasy managers have wanted so far this year, but the talent's still there, even if the usage isn't. If you want to argue about rush yards, go argue with someone else. I'm going the receiving yards, baby. What do we know about the Bucs? This defensive line is very strong. It's really the only good part of their defense. They're very good at stuffing opposing running backs at the line of scrimmage. What happens when you're a team like the Atlanta Falcons? You have the lowest pass rate over expectation in football, which loosely means not only do you not throw the ball, you don't really know how to throw the ball, right? What are they going to do? It's going to be short passes, right? When you can't run the ball right up the middle, they're stuffing that all the time. That's going to funnel you into a lot of these quick passes, get the ball out quickly, and still let your playmakers make plays. I think Bijan Robinson, he was at 18.5 receiving yards this week. Crush that number, obviously. I think he'll be in the low 20s, probably 20, 21, and I think that'll be, once again, another very valuable number. The final thing I want to touch up on right here, it's going to be a little bit weird. We're going Khalil Shakir over either receiving yards or longest reception. I don't know what the market's going to be right here, but what have I talked about with the Bills these last couple of weeks? Obviously, they're getting a little bit better. A big part of that has been their 11 personnel usage versus their 12 personnel usage. Before, they were running 2 tight end sets with Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid. That is obviously what they drafted him for. And to be completely honest, their advanced stats were not very good in that formation. They were actually a lot better in 11 personnel, which is a 3 wide receiver set. You sit back and you let Josh Allen cook. Ever since they switched to those, Shakir has been out there and making plays. If you've been watching Bills games, you know who this guy is now. A couple weeks ago, you may have never heard of him. He's on your radar now. He's been showing up, running routes out of the slot. For me, that's a guy I definitely want to target out of their bye week. I think they're going to have some creative plays, maybe a bubble screen or 2, a lateral, who knows what happens. So I think Khalil Shakir, is the final guy I'll be looking at this week in that high-paced Chiefs versus Bills matchup.
Take note of this, people. Go bet this stuff when it's available. You will make money. Our man Stu has been on fire this season. So go ahead and tail our man. And go ahead and download OddsTrader. It is the best in-class predictive sports betting AI that you can get. It is available at the App Store. It is available at the Google Play Store. You can go to oddstrader.com. Go do this now. Be a better. Make money betting on sports. It's that simple, people. Go do it. It's free. OddsTrader is where it's at. The best in class sports betting predictive AI. I am TommyFreezePops. We are not going to talk about the Patriots. That's Stu, Monotone Football. He and AC will be back with me next weekend to give you your first look at week 15 in the NFL. I cannot believe we are already at week 15. This thing has been flying by. It's been a ton of fun, and we will see you next week here on the Opening Line Report.